Welcome to the only wrestling podcast that covers the WWE developmental system from its inception to modern day. From OVW to MCW, the HWA, Deep South, FCW, and much more. Hosted by Brian Asbury and Mortimer Blankenship. Now let's dive into what could have been, what should have been. Welcome to Developmentally Speaking.
Hey, before we get in this episode, can you do us a favor? Will you go ahead and subscribe to the channel?
Will you ring that notification bell?
And if you would, give this video a like. Well, enough of that mumbo jumbo. Let's get to the episode.
Let's talk developmentally speaking, glow up, and connecting through wrestling.
Hey everybody, I'm Morty.
And I'm Brian.
And on today's episode of Developmentally Speaking, we have the Brian Kendrick.
Da-da-da-da. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Thank you. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing quite well. And yourselves?
Great.
Can't complain.
Well, I don't want to be the typical fat guy, but I'm hungry. But, you know, that's just how it goes. Always hungry. You know. But let's just get right into it. Same question for everybody. What made you want to get into wrestling?
Well, so I guess the truth is what makes anybody do anything. Who's to really say? You know, what I could use is cause and effect and say that what is so special about wrestling to me is that it's almost like human cartoon characters. That it's a real larger than life, but they're actually touchable. That you can get swept away in the drama of good versus evil without even really knowing as a child that's what you're watching is these tales, morality plays. And then as I grew up as a child watching WWF. As I got older and got to see the other types of wrestling and see how much more there could be, boy, that's great because as much as I like the style of the obvious good versus bad, I like that it's much more flexible than just that.
Absolutely. That's, you know, I became enamored with the larger than life characters at a young age, like WWF superstars. You know, nowadays people say it's corny, but that was the thing for me. You know, like the Mountie and Repo Man and all that. I love that, and you know, I truly believe, like, you know, we're from Southern Indiana, kind of, you know, the top of the Bible Belt, and we when I was a kid, I remember there being a lot of controversy about children watching wrestling, and for me, wrestling is for children. I mean, it's for everybody, but the main audience that I target, me personally, when I'm out there playing my role as Mortimer Blankenship, I'm doing everything I do to get a reaction from the children, because to them, it's still that, like you said, morality play, and they drink it in, and it's real to them. So I can totally, I have a very similar reasoning as to why I got into wrestling. People ask me, you know, I've been doing it for about 12 years, and they ask me, well, what keeps you in it? You know, because, you know, I never became a name. I never did. You know, why do you still do it? It's the kids. It's, you know, finally getting what's coming. You know, I'm typically the bad guy. Finally getting what's coming to me, and the kids cheering. It's a beautiful thing. And you saying that, you know, I totally agree with you. That is, you know, that's the reason why I got into it, and I can relate.
It's magic, that connection. And you know, I'm back out doing the indies again, and so, you know, you do some shows where you're wrestling in a style that's very similar to 205 Live with an educated wrestling fan base. And then I'm also wrestling a taco festival, you know, outside of Eureka, California, and you just find that little kid. You know, you talk trash to a little kid. You tell the baby face, I'm going to powder, hold me, let that little kid chop me. And that's, boy, one of the things about wrestling so special. You can do those taco festivals, and it feels so pure when you tell the obvious morality play. It's really a fun thing to be a part of, or even just watch it live.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you know, I love, like, I was part of a weekly show for years, and I love storylines, but I also love the almost raw interaction that you have with a crowd when you go out to and you're in a new city and it's just a one-off show that your company just happens to be doing, and you could just play, you're going to play whatever character you want to play off to the crowd, and you can just create that storyline right then and there and not worry about the main story, and that, I feel like that doesn't happen as much as it should anymore. I mean, you can watch the product on TV, and I mean, not so much WWE, but some other people. I don't know who the babyface and heel are in a lot of matches now, and I hate that, because as a kid that would be so confusing to me. I'd be like,
Yeah.
But yeah, I digress. Go ahead.
When did you decide you were going to start pursuing wrestling?
So I started applying for wrestling schools when I heard about such a thing when I was 19. I think it's when I went to my first wrestling school, NWA Southwest. I had a friend who was working with a guy that was going to go to a wrestling school, and oh my goodness, that was a thing. I wanted to be one, and I guess this is probably the answer to your initial question. What made me want to be a wrestler? It was WrestleMania 6, seeing the main event, going to my friend's house, seeing the Ultimate Warrior run to the ring. So that was the moment that I guess, like, that was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. That felt like a calling to me. So I never really had much plans outside of that. If I was gonna not gamble on myself, I would have went and tried to be a cook. But at 7, 8, whatever it was, I decided, no, I want to be a pro wrestler.
And how was it trying to find back then a wrestling school and to get into wrestling? Because it's not. I feel like it wasn't as accessible as it is today.
It wasn't. It was. The first school I applied to was APW. I sent my deposit, and years later, I got my deposit back. But it turns out it was pretty hard. This was AOL dial-up and mailing things and stuff like that. So it took a little while. Went to NWA Southwest. It was fine training. I really liked the guys. I wanted to make this a living, though. So I went and was going to find Jose Lothario, but thank goodness Shawn Michaels opened up the school so I could learn from the guy I wanted to learn from.
How was training down there?
It was awesome. It was intense. So, all I wanted to be was a wrestler, and then he was like the best wrestler, and he was also the coolest wrestler. You're this nerd watching TV, and that I was, and it was intense. And Rudy Boy, he was there for everything, and he was kind and calm, and Shawn was busy and seen it all, and he was brilliant, and sometimes volatile because he's getting frustrated with us dumb kids. Him being around the Shawn influence, though, that was I gotta impress this guy, and so that was really motivating to have him around, just for the fact that I could try to perform in front of this guy who I want to be like. And thank God for Rudy.
I actually met Rudy not too long ago. I think he does work with OVW now, so we'll bring him up. And he was at an OVW show. Rudy Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I think he was coaching down there, and he just sat in the audience right in front of us. And then I got to talk to him for a few minutes, and then we did an episode where we covered Lance Cade, and I sent it to him, and it was really.
That's really nice.
Really nice guy, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, good. I'm glad you guys got along.
Yeah. So I couldn't imagine the pressure of training with Shawn Michaels being there. And
Man.
Feeling like you always got to be on your A game.
Yeah, especially because he's yelling and I'm just a pimply little kid, Yeah, it was scary.
So after you finished your training, where did you start wrestling at?
What was that? When did I start wrestling after that, you said?
Yeah, well, after you finished your training, what was the next step? Like, where did you go from there?
So luckily, both the NWA Southwest, they they had a promotion, the school, so you could go straight to a promotion. I did 4 matches there before going to Sean's. At Sean's, same thing. He had his own promotion, so it was really easy to just start working. I just worked for him, worked for NWA Southwest when I was there. And out of that, we got a tryout about 8 months after we started training. And 2 days after that tryout, our dark match is what it was. We got contracts. Lance, Tudor Schultz, Brian Danielson, and myself.
So how was the developmental then?
It was great. I mean, I guess this is what we're here to talk about is the developmental, and it was awesome. It was kind of Wild West in the sense that William Regal was down there. He was our coach, but he wasn't the coach. He was just the wrestler. Tracy Smothers was our coach, but he was just a wrestler. They weren't hired as coaches. They were just guys down in the system. Not too long into it, they gave me the key that Terry Golden did, because I was the dumb kid that would be there early and stay late. It was nuts. We were wrestling with Mean Street Posse and headbangers, and getting thrown around by Lord Steven Regal, and yeah, it was fresh off of the Man's Man stuff, and here's this big British guy from TV, still intimidated by him today, even though he's a dear friend. And Tracy Smothers, man, couldn't have been more of a wrestler. He was so cool and a beautiful person. Got to meet Robbie Brookside there, thanks to Regal, who's still, everybody loves him, and he's still coaching today. Bobby Eaton for a short spell. It was nice. It was really, really nice.
Yeah, Tracy Smothers, I've been on a few shows with him, and he was just the wrestler's wrestler. Yeah, the way you put that, like Tracy, just what a learning tree to sit under. And just hear him talk. Yeah, you definitely had the teachers that if anybody could be like, this is the Mount Rushmore of teachers, you definitely had some of them for sure.
I really was real fortunate with the guys who helped me out along the way. Really, really fortunate, yeah. And with Tracy, besides just the knowledge, it's his with Regal too. They carry themselves completely different. Regal, very professional, gentleman and stuff. And Tracy Smothers as just like somebody older that you admire, but you could go and talk to him, and he could come down to your level and sympathize with you. And it was just, he really helped a lot of younger people.
Yeah, we're from Southern Indiana, so we cover a lot of OVW, and and we're from Seymour, which is the hometown of Rip Rogers, and so growing up, I've always been a big fan of Rip, and we actually we're friends with him, and so he's known as one of the greatest trainers that there's ever been, and hearing his stories and hearing Tracy's stories, there's definitely similarities there on their mindsets. The wrestler mindset, which I unfortunately, as time progresses, we are losing those wrestlers that have that wrestler mindset, and I think that's part of the reason why the sport is changing a little bit. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, so I would say that Tracy Smothers and I have to imagine Rip too. These are guys that would say, "You're damn right, I'm a wrestler," and they're proud to be a wrestler. And all you wrestlers wear those fanny packs and those high tech boots. You're damn right we do, and I'm proud to wear them. And they didn't care if the rest of the world mocked them. They were proud to be who they were. And so maybe some of that's going away. Maybe caring what the rest of the world thinks is disappearing, because there is people actively seeking to hear what the rest of the world says with social media. So I think the mindset is changing. But I would also say that these let's say Ric Flair. You know, I adore Ric Flair. I think he's a fantastic wrestler. I love him as a wrestler, as a person, all of that. You watch Buddy Rogers. Ric Flair was doing way more than Buddy Rogers, running spots, powdering, you know, all that stuff. It was far more than what Fez and Rogers were doing. So even then, it progressed to blood. Even it progressed to you know, running high spots, and the characters became larger. So, and the thing is, those were in the past for me, so I enjoy them all. And now as I'm 43, you know, when it evolves into, as you were saying earlier, Morty, I don't know who's heel or face anymore. Well, it's because there is no heel or face anymore. It might just be evolving past the morality play and back into pure spectacle.
Go ahead.
You've always stayed relevant no matter what you've done. I remember I actually met you in 2000, I think it was 12, because I used to work for Gabe back when he was doing Evolve and Dragon Gate, and I believe you came in for a Dragon Gate show, WrestleMania weekend. You've always been nice and approachable, and you know, everybody always just seems like to come to learn, to ask questions, and not everybody's like that, but everyone seems to have really good chemistry with you, and you've always seemed like you were willing to help whoever, whatever, in any situation. And I personally just want to say thank you, because I don't think I've ever seen you in a non-approachable situation. You know, I've always been in the background, you know, I was just a production guy, but I was outside looking in. You've always been professional and nice and courteous, and I just want to say thank you for that.
That's very kind of you, Brian. I appreciate that. And look, I've done a lot of things out of anger. You know, in the past, I've yelled at people when I've let my emotions get the better of me. I still struggle with that. You know, of not letting my emotions control me. You know, but I appreciate what you're saying. I do strive to. Yeah. I mean, why would I want to talk to whoever, you know? So thank you, Brian.
Thank you. So when we're talking about OVW, a lot of people call John Cena being one, said that being in OVW was like Camelot, because it was like a big family, a big happy family that wanted to see each other succeed. What?
He was in Memphis.
Huh? I know that.
Okay.
I know where it was.
Okay.
Same time, though. Same time.
Yeah. I know. So my question is, in your developmental days, would you say that it was like that, or was it more dog eat dog?
No, so ours was bizarre. Our developmental. Let me see if I can. All right, it's gonna be really bad. I don't know if you guys can even see that picture. I'll pull it out later and send it to you guys. It's a group photo of everybody, right?
Oh, that's cool.
But it's so. But we've got like Kevin Thorne, who wasn't really under contract. We got York and Matthews, who are already from ECW. We've got the Haas brothers, who just came in. We had us from Sean's school. We have Maddie and Eki, Victoria, Molly Hawley in here. But anyways, what it is it's a lot of just randos. You know, it wasn't like the developmental in OVW, where they had, you know, real fresh young guys. They had people who they had rostered, but they didn't know what to do with, like Kate Quick and Reckless Youth. Steve Bradley was down there, but it was random. We didn't have the John Cena's, the guys who were built and ready to go prospects who were going to learn wrestling. We had a bunch of outcasts.
So a motley crew, if you will.
Yeah.
This was early on in the developmental, like them putting developmental together too, right? So they had.
Oh yeah. This was in the year 2000. So now they've got one ring that's got crash pads with the canvas over it down there. They've got 6 different rings. They've got geniuses on every level. I had the keys. Yeah. I was the guy with the keys at that place. Yeah, it was the Wild West.
That's cool.
So how long were you in Memphis?
About a year. About a year. I think they moved us out there in the summer. We got fired the following summer, they dissolved Memphis. Mm-hmm. They opened Cincinnati, moved some guys to some places, and then got rid of others. Me being one of the others.
So what was your next step after you were released from your developmental deal?
Very fortunate. My best friend to today is my buddy Jordan. He lived in Los Angeles, and there was UPW out there where they found John Cena and Heidenreich and a lot of guys. And so I moved down to LA, and I went to go train. Their coach didn't show up, and so I became the trainer my first day there. And that was it. I guess that was the most qualified, I guess. And that was my next move. I stayed there until Lance Cade invited me to go to live with him in Cincinnati, which was developmental at the time.
So how was it in Cincinnati?
It was awesome. The reason I went there was because I wanted to wrestle like Chris Benoit and like Eddie Guerrero and all these guys, but Lance knew this. And Chris was coming down to rehab when he'd had neck surgery. And so he said, hey, do you want to come to Cincinnati, come crash on the floor? And I did. And his roommate, Mike Sanders, above average Mike Sanders, was cool with it. Their other roommate, Brian, was cool with it. And as luck would have it, Chris picked me. He picked me as the guy to train with him, off hours. And so it happened. I got to train with Chris Benoit one-on-one for maybe only a couple of weeks, but it was pretty darn cool.
How intense was that?
It was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah. I mean, he's this guy. He was what he was. Even if you saw his demeanor in the ring at that time, he's a buzzsaw, and that's who I wanted to be. So I looked up to him. I was intimidated, but I don't complain when I never got beat up, so I never had to complain. But yeah.
To me, that would be amazing to be able to do that with Benoit in the ring.
It was awesome. Yeah. It really was.
So, what was after when you were in Cincinnati? What happened next?
Out of Cincinnati, I got a call back from UPW, where I just left. They needed a replacement for a guy who didn't want to go to Japan, so I drove my car 30 hours straight or whatever it is, had to vomit and stuff to stay awake, yada yada, and then wrestled 3 matches to win this. Only trying to really win, but I wrestled 3 matches, and then at the end of the night, hey, you're going to Japan. And I went to Japan.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was a whirlwind. Yeah.
Drive 30 hours, wrestle 3 matches, go to Japan.
Yeah, and that was it. And then on a trip to Japan, I come back home to Cincinnati at this point to find out Cincinnati's no more. Well, the city still remains, but the developmental was no longer developmental. Oh, damn. Yeah, I was going to see my buddies when they came home from practice, and oof, time to move.
It seemed like they did that a lot until they could find what they were looking for.
It helped now with. So before there was some great places. Steve Kern ran a great operation. OVW. I was never a part of it, but it seemed brilliant. All these guys that came out of there, but they were never theirs. This is, Hunter has his stamp. He's approving things, or people he's approved are approving things. Whereas before, they would just be a good trainer and use that facility.
Yeah.
Boy, the facility now is unbelievable.
It looks amazing.
Yeah.
What point did your return to WWE after your developmental release happen? Like, how did that come about?
It came about through Ring of Honor just started. I just did a couple of shows, but it was, starting to become something. And at the same time, I was going out to Japan. They gave me this gimmick, Leonardo Spanky, and it was at the beginning of this Company 01. The character was doing okay enough that I became on their radar. And they called me up, asked me to do a tryout, and I did it with Dark Match. And from there, they said, "Where do you live?" I said, I live up in near Seattle, where I moved back to at that point after Cincinnati. And they said, we're not going to fly. This is Jim Ross. We're not going to fly out of Seattle. And I said, what about Tampa? Because Joe Briscoe was there, and he said, Tampa it is. And okay, you got a deal. So that was it. And kind of wherever they told me to go.
Nice.
That's very nice.
Yeah, for sure. So, I always had the random questions. You said you mentioned Japan. So, do you have a Ribera jacket?
I had a Ribera jacket. Oh. I had a Ribera jacket that matched the it's the one that Muda had. It's the light silver one. And so I just met this gal who I had fallen head over heels with, and I had to scramble. Nobody, and I'm still upset with Carino about this. Nobody knocked on my door to come wake me up. I had to scramble to go find the stuff. Didn't know where I was going. Luck would have it, I found it, but my Ribera jacket was left in the Hotel Ibis closet, and that's it. But they gave me some Zubaz the next time I went there, and I think I still got those Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with the little yeah.
Man, yeah, because that's just my goal at one point, which now that I'm old and fat, I've kind of given up on that. I've always wanted to go to Japan for wrestling. I've always wanted to
get out there, man. Do it. Make it happen.
I've always wanted to be.
Tell them all the time. Like every time before I do this, I get like nervous or like butterfly. I don't know. It's just like the build up to like talking to people.
I don't get nervous. I don't know. I've never. It's just like the sad like the thing is, being a manager in wrestling is becoming a lost art. But there's still a lot of management going on in Japan and stuff like that. I would love to just manage jobbers in Japan. I don't know. Like, I think it'd be so much fun just to be like, act like I'm this tough, like, and then just all my guys just always get their asses kicked. I think it'd be fun.
I love it. I love it. Just a manager who's stuck with idiots.
Yes.
Blaming those idiots.
Oh, my God. I would love it.
Yeah. He never gives up.
He just keeps bringing them out. Yeah, I would love it. But I've always wanted to go and get a Ribera jacket and all that, and then just it's one of those things that I'm enamored with when it comes to wrestling. I don't know why, because truth be told, up until a few years ago, I never watched Japanese wrestling. I was always, I was raised WCW. That was what I watched for the longest time. Then once WCW was no more, I started watching WWF. But I always ask when somebody mentions Japan about the Ribera jacket. Sly Turkai says he's going to next time he comes on, he's going to wear his jacket for us, and so I can see it. Pretty excited about that.
The thing about the jacket is, and I get it, even if you don't like Japanese wrestling, it's only for wrestling. Mm-hmm. Nobody else gets it. It's for wrestling. You can't buy them, and so it means, at least in this world, you're a part of this exclusive club. Even if you're the shoddiest of wrestlers, if Ribera gave you that jacket, you're a wrestler. You're in this club. So I understand why it's special for people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. It's very special. Like, the Zubas, the fanny pack, the Ribera jacket. Oh,
he wants it all.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So good,
Don't even have to pay him. He just wants the jacket.
Just like, and the fanny pack thing, being around Rip for as long as we have, he even has a T-shirt out that says, "Now that's an effing strap," and it shows a fanny pack at the bottom of his T-shirt. So good, But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
You run in Japan, and then you did a lot of stuff all over the U.S. How have you always managed to stay relevant, or you're all over the place? It just seems like you're always on the go.
I've been, and I think it's very kind of you to stay relevant. I don't know, I'd say it's very kind. What the truth is, I've been able to stay busy. I've been able to find work. There isn't promotions out there, chomping at the bit to make me their headliner. That I haven't been used in such a capacity, and I might fail miserably at it. But I do manage to, I think, because of persistence. But you have to stay in the game to stay in the game, and I think being adaptable in style, being willing to change your style, trying to put in a good effort, even if it's not as good as other people's. If you put in your best effort, I think that shows, and I think that helps. I think that might be wise. I'll pat myself on the back, work ethic, I guess.
Yeah. So when I started getting into wrestling, I had met a guy, Jason Ayers. You remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was from here, and then I started traveling with him, and then it was Automatic, Dragon Gate, Evolve. So that's all I've ever known, type deal, where he's done different independents and stuff. So I've always seen people like you or Gargano or Mox. That's all I've ever known. So you, the group of you guys together, I always thought it was magic. Everybody together, you guys, it was just, you just sit like this. I've always enjoyed it, and then you bring, the Japanese style into it, and then those fans to me are they're diehard. They want it. They want the wrestling. They want the hard hitting. That's what I've always loved, and it seems like you've always been around that, and I think that the people, that's why they love you so much, is you've always stayed,
I appreciate it, Brian. I appreciate it. If I were, I guess I would say I try to wrestle at least to me, logically sound style of, when I'm putting stuff together, what would I do next? It's always this. It's always logic, and then, try to make jazz at the end. But that's it. But while doing that, I aim for a realistic looking style. That's what I hope to wrestle in that the stuff looks sincere, that I'm honestly putting in an effort instead of, and I love this stuff, but that's a very entertaining style of wrestling. That's not the style I go for. Not the style I choose to perform.
Yeah,
for sure. That there's something, and this is me talking to you about him. There's something special about a wrestler whenever they make a return, you automatically pop. And that every time. I mean, I remember watching. I don't remember what it was, of course, that he returned on, and I was like, "Is that it's Brian Kendrick?" I was like, "Oh my!" Actually, it's one of those things where it's because I've always, I guess the funny part of this is when I was younger and watched wrestling with my dad, I always enjoyed watching you. My dad absolutely hated you. Absolutely hated you. I couldn't get him to. I'm like, no, he's a really good. He's like, no, he's a dweeb. He's a nerd. That's what my dad would say all the time. I'm like, no, he's a good. And that was Spanky, of course. So, yeah, and it was just, I can't stand that Spanky. I'm like, he's the best wrestler on the roster right now, Dad. Or however I would have said it at that age, but because I really didn't use wrestling. I'm like, he's the best one around, something like that. But yeah, I don't. Sorry, that's just one of my memories I have is my dad just disliking Spanky with a fiery hatred.
He's doing his job.
Yeah.
That's funny.
You can tell that you love wrestling, and I love that. You can tell people who love wrestling and who are there because they want to be there.
Absolutely. So, if you had any advice for somebody that wants to get into the business, what would it be?
Put in the work. And that's it. To expound on that, but not by much. Don't allow yourself any excuses. I'm tired. So what? Get up, go to the gym. Oh, my back hurts. So what? Get up, go wrestle. You're gonna find times in your training or whatever that you can use as an excuse to stop. But then you stop. Just don't stop. That's it. It's as simple as that. You just gotta keep moving ahead.
I agree. TJ Wilson, he's a mentor of mine. If I need advice, he's the guy I go to, whether it's personal, it's life, it's anything.
Great choice.
He always had said, like, when they were in FCW, that, like, some guys that were developmental would say, oh, my back hurts. And Dr. Tom's like, oh, go ahead, take a day off. He's like, you know what, take 3 days off. And then after 3 days, they didn't have a job anymore. Like, they're always, like, if you don't want to be here, don't waste anybody's time. You know what I mean? Like like you were saying, you have to put in the work. If you want it, you have to. There's going to be days you're tired. You don't, but you got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And that's why I respect you for that, because you can always tell you are a workhorse and you do love professional wrestling. I think that sets people apart.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you. I think good wrestling is wrestling that makes me want to wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
When I watch you guys wrestle, I get so wrapped up in it, and that only happens when they've got that fire in their eyes. And they got that fire in their eyes when they believe it. When they pour everything they have in them out there for the world to see, and they expose themselves through that fire. And that I hope to wrestle like those guys that I admire. Yeah.
Always.
Well, I want to say, personally, from myself and from Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us tonight.
Thank you, guys.
And it's been an honor, and thank you once again for everything that you did for that, and you continue to do for professional wrestling. It is it's a gift to the art and sport that is wrestling, and thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. you flattered me. I really appreciate the hospitality, guys. Thanks for asking me to do this.
It's people like you that make me, push through and keep pursuing, what I'm trying to pursue. I love wrestling, and I know, what my place would be, and I just like I'm trying to. What is that word I'm looking for? Pursue my passion through doing this, and talking to people and help people tell their stories. And I truly appreciate you taking the time out and being courteous, and it means a lot.
Thank you so much. Have a great one. Hey everybody, it's Morty.
It's Brian.
And thank you for watching today's episode of Developmentally Speaking.
If you could, please click that subscribe button.
And don't forget to punch that bell icon so you can get notified whenever we go live or drop a new video every Monday. Well, thanks for watching, guys. And we'll see you on the next
Developmentally Speaking.